And let's just say they the BET Awards wanted to do uh BET wanted to do the BET Awards at the Barclays Center, right? And they tell them, all right, yeah, but you gotta do the tickets through Ticketmaster and stuff. And they doing it with Rock Nation, or allegedly, right? Just hypothetically speaking, right? They would have the same type of power. If BET like, nah, we don't want to use Ticketmaster, we want to use Eventbrite. You know, we do all our events through Eventbrite. Nah. Well, if y'all don't use Ticketmaster, then I'm not letting none of our artists perform at the awards. It's that same type of thing. You get what I'm saying? When he's threatening a company, like, oh, if you want to use Eventbrite over Ticketmaster, they control Ticketmaster. They can say, yo, y'all niggas sold 3,000 tickets and you sold 30. They own it. They got the venue. They covered the door, everything. The people that went in and stuff, they click and click, and they run the money, the Ticketmaster, right? So they can tell you how many people walked in and how many people bought tickets. How would you know? So this is what they dealing with, and this is why this thing is so important to the music industry, because let's say if Mariah Carey is on Live Nation and the Barclays Center want to get Mariah, and let's say the owner of the Barclays Center knows Mariah personally, but being that she signed to Live Nation, right? They want to book her, and they like, yo, man, we trying to book you for Mariah Christmas. Let's just, hypothetically speaking, right? And she like, yeah, all right, we'll just call Live Nation. And then Live Nation's like, nah, no, y'all can't book her. Y'all wanted to use Eventbrite instead of Ticketmaster. Nah, y'all can't book her. And it ain't nothing that Mariah could do because she's under contract with them, and they her agent, right? And there's nothing that the promoter or producer of the show or whoever it may be that want to hire Mariah, there's nothing that they can do. And so I'm just saying all that to say this, right? Do you know how much power that gave people like Jay-Z, that y'all niggas can't do shows unless y'all kiss the ring? And this is why you seen so many people run over there, right? But now, as you can see, it done died down so bad that they don't even do the brunch no more. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people don't realize that they was kissing butt for nothing. You know what I'm saying? And went out there looking like a groupie, and didn't get nothing out of it. But let's get back to this real quick so y'all can see.
Of threatening a venue by saying, well, if you don't go with Ticketmaster and you master their ticketing service, and Rapinoe is heard in a recorded phone call kind of threatening a venue by saying, well, if you don't go with Ticketmaster and you go with our competitor, boy, I don't know, we're going to have a hard time routing some of our big artists to your venue. And that venue is Barclays Center in Brooklyn, one of the biggest arenas in the tri-state area.
Rufino, we should know, is the head of Live Nation, and those stories I know were reported on for so long. As you mentioned, though, we do not yet know what the remedies could be. We should point out in the verdict that the jury found Ticketmaster overcharged consumers by about $1.72 a ticket. Is there a chance here that concert goers could see some of their money coming back?
It is really hard to say. It's very early in this process, quite honestly. And we need to be fair to Live Nation here. They did not create this system. The problem stems from when ticketing went online. Because before, when it was just hard tickets, you couldn't have a bot buying up thousands of tickets and flipping them for, exponentially more than their face value. And Live Nation has tried to fight that syndrome. Sometimes they're successful, sometimes they're not. They're up against the most sophisticated bots in the world. So in sympathy to them, they are trying to keep things in the stakeholders, the people who actually put money and, have skin in the game with putting on shows, venues, artists, managers, promoters, people like that, instead of bots and scalpers. But they do play rough, and I mean, this is a capitalist society. We're allowed to push the limits to a degree, but the question here is whether they push them too far, and the jury today found that they did.
I mean, Live Nation has inarguably been an absolute force in this industry, right? According to some of the trial testimony, they sold about 10 times the number of tickets as the next closest competitor. What else have we heard from them over the course of this trial? What's been their response to the accusations about their practices?
Oh, throughout, they've been saying we're not a monopoly, we play rough. They don't say we play rough. They say we're competitive and we're aggressive, all of which is certainly true and somewhat defensible. But when you start getting into some of the details, like, with them trying to explain away, those famous Slack messages where people were saying, like, oh my gosh, can you believe these suckers, meaning concert goers paying for tickets, that it wasn't that exactly those words, but it was the sentiment. The particulars they were less strong on, but generally they're just saying we are not a monopoly. They dispute a lot of the numbers, the percentages of how much of the ticketing market they have. The prosecution said it was about 86%. They said, oh, no, it's more like 44%. And with anything like that, it's how you slice and dice the numbers. But they've basically been saying we are playing by the rules. And it is up to the jury to decide whether or not they believe that.
We will see what happens next. That is Jem Oswald, music editor for Variety. Jem, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Support journalism you trust.
So, as you can see, there's going to be some type of payout. I like, you're not going to sit there and say that y'all overcharge people for tickets, $1.70 a ticket, and make it publicly known that you charge people $1.70 over, and think that you're not going to be giving out a class action lawsuit on a refund. You better believe you are. You better believe you are. Yeah, so they violated the federal and state antitrust laws. They gonna take a hit, bro. Watch. It's gonna be a couple of billion. It ain't gonna be no couple of millions. They gonna hit them for a couple of billion. Watch. But you know what it is, man. Choke no joke. If you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you for coming. I appreciate the love. Shout out to my moderator, his squad in the building, my membership game, my subscribers. I love you all. Choke no joke. I will be back in the AM. You know, it's always a show at 10 a.m. You know, and the one at 4. And then I'm here live at 7. All right. Or 7-ish. I know I'll be late sometime. But you know, 10 a.m., 4 p.m., you're always gonna get something from me. All right. Choke no joke. All right. I'll see y'all tomorrow.